Hello and welcome everyone. You guys are watching Esports and Information. My name is Harsh. Let's see what do we have today to react. Usually I find information from different media platforms such as Reuters, Associated Press. More predominantly, we look for information on Akashvani and All India radio pages on X because I would say these sources of information are somewhat more authentic, relatively more authentic compared to all the other private media houses that we have. And it goes without saying that majority of the private media houses that we have in our country, they have some or the other hidden agenda. There is one or the other side of the political spectrum that they support. So you have to be very mindful when you follow a source of information. So the local sources of information that we follow are ANI, the Hindu, um, multiple sources of information we have. So yeah, these are all the local sources. Keep in mind, like I said, they have one or the other agenda when it comes to putting out information in the public domain. All right, let's see. Uh, Quickly dive deep into the information that we have. Wait a minute. Yes, so right after we won the T20 World Cup, there are three players from our national team that have made announcements to retire from T20 international cricket, starting from Rohit Sharma, Virat Kohli, and one more name that is added to that list is Ravindra Jadeja. The left arm spinner, left-handed batsman, has also announced his retirement. So there are three spots that are vacant in the national team. Let's see who stands up and take those spots. And I would say this is a very right decision. You should always let go of something when you are at the top. Uh, when it comes to retirement, it's a very well established convention among athletes and sports players that when you are at the pinnacle of your career, you should definitely consider retirement, or you will end up as cricketers who did not receive any farewell games. So there are multiple legendary cricketers who are sitting in the commentary boxes these days who have contributed immensely to the national cricket, but they have not received any farewell games. So, yep, learning, from all those things. Next up is Japan. Japan will start issuing new banknotes on 3rd of July. Okay, so from 3rd of this month, the nation of Japan is going to issue new banknotes. It is the world's first use of cutting edge holography that makes the portraits of historic figures appear to rotate in 3D. All right, so they're going to introduce some new features, some cutting edge features such as holography, and they will have portraits of historic figures to rotate in 3D. I'm really intrigued now to see what sort of figures do these will these notes have on them, because in our country we have somehow rigidly fixed it that it is only Mohandas Gandhi who deserves to be on the currency. There was no other individual in the entire history of Bharat there is who is worthy enough to be placed on the currency notes. I would tend to disagree. Okay, but we still have not reached that stage of that stage of a society where we can sit and openly discuss about who actually you support, because these days if you do not support Mohandas Gandhi, if you do not subscribe to the ideology of Mohandas Gandhi, you are labeled as somebody who is on the uh, s- somebody who is an enemy, somebody who is an adversary to the democratic state of Bharat. So we really need to loosen up as a society. We really need to come out of these shackles so it's like we have been kept inside this box. Okay, you can only think inside that box. Your political thinking, your political imagination should only be bound by these limits that we set. Okay, so I would say yes, Japan is making use of this holography. This new technology will allow visually impaired people to feel and discern which banknote they are holding. Okay, so it's also making strides towards including more people into the exercise of democracy, because currency is, like I say, it's a manifestation of sovereignty of a nation. Only a sovereign nation can print currency. But people who are visually challenged, usually they are not able to understand which note they are holding. There are different countries on the face of the earth who have made different arrangements to solve this problem that visually impaired people face. Earlier, there were some countries whose banknotes had those perforations on them for to enable the visually impaired people to identify which notes they are holding. Even the coins, some of the coins that we have been made specifically keeping in mind the needs of visually impaired people. So the tactile marks for the visually impaired will also make them recognizable to touch. Okay. So by the end of March next year, nearly 7.5 billion new banknotes will have been printed. Existing banknotes will remain valid after the introduction of the new banknotes. All right, let's see how does Japan enable this? How does All right. Next up is, yes, Man Ki Baat. Usually, the Prime Minister of Bharat. Uh, he is fond of such things. He holds a national telecast of Man Ki Baat that is, aired all across this great land of ours, and a lot of people can hear it. I would say it's a good initiative by a prime minister. There is some sort of a bond that is implied when the leader of a country talks to the citizens in such a manner. Okay, because usually leaders, we only see them during some festivity, some event that has been organized, and that leader is a chief guest. And yeah, there is a lot of, I would say, I'm not getting the exact word right now, but yeah, there is a lot of distance when it comes to the person who is leading the democracy, and the people who put him there, or him or her there. Okay, so this activity that he's doing, that the prime minister is doing, I would say it is more like a bridge, building a bridge with the people and the leader. Yep. So yes, in yesterday's Man Ki Baat, he has, you know, mentioned a few of things that deserve mention. Okay. So yes, he has highlighted some traditional products that have, made it to the international stage. Now, I remember in one of my previous live streams, I have spoken about how we as a society are more not content. We as a society are more content. Why? Because we inherently have this habit of making things sustainable. Okay, we do not try to consume things that we know that we cannot sustain. Okay, if you follow history, if you follow international history, the development of the United States was fueled by this incessant consumerism, and hence they have a lot of brands. Okay, I remember growing up in school, I was constantly lectured by many teachers and many speakers who came to my school by taking this as an insult, that the reason why Bharat does not have too many brands is because we are not capable enough to produce branded content or branded content. Okay, but now that I have read multiple sources, now that I understand Bharat and its philosophies better than what I used to, I understand that the reason behind we not having a lot of brands, because somewhere deep down we do not depend on this idea of consumerism to drive our economy. Okay, But yes, things are changing. Obviously, people these days are depending a lot on consuming things. I would say social media marketing and marketing is to blame for a lot of things these days. But yeah, that's a discussion for another video. But let's focus on what the Prime Minister has said. He has specifically mentioned Karthumbi umbrellas from a district Attapadi in Kerala. Okay, these are umbrellas that are crafted by tribal women under the leadership of a cooperative farming society. These umbrellas, rich in cultural significance, are now in demand nationwide and available online, showcasing the journey from a small village to multinational companies. Yes, I would say this is a. I would consider it as a startup because they are producing some good. They are producing it out of materials that have to be locally available, because if they are able to sustain this enterprise, then the materials that they are using it might be easily or readily available. So yeah, they are produced by tribal women. It's a women-led enterprise. They are rich in cultural significance, and now since the monsoons are here, what better time to use umbrella than right now? Okay, yes, I would say umbrellas are still somewhat better than raincoats because it's the possibility of enjoying rain, even if somehow you are not like totally immune from rain when you use an umbrella, but I guess umbrella is still better than raincoats. Yep. Next up is Araku coffee from Alluri Sitaram Raju district in Andhra Pradesh. Okay, if you don't know who Alluri Sitaram Raju is, there is a post. Okay, there is a very well researched, post that we have put up in our on our Instagram page. Um, Please go through that post if you don't know who Alluri Sitaram Raju is. Yes, so there is a district named after that individual. That should itself be enough for you to be intrigued about who that individual was. But that is besides the point. So there is a brand of coffee named Araku Coffee in that district of Andhra Pradesh that is making waves globally with its rich flavor and aroma. So if you are a coffee enthusiast, if you are a coffee connoisseur, okay, you should definitely try out this brand. I myself have. It's a uh, I wouldn't say it's a very strong coffee, but the aroma that comes out of Araku coffee, it's just on another level. It's just the aroma that comes. Otherwise, it's not a very strong coffee. It's a mild coffee, I would say, but the smell that you get out of coffee, that's just enough. Okay. So involving around 1.5 lakh tribal families in its cultivation. Okay, okay. This award-winning coffee even featured at the G20 summit in Delhi. All right, all right. The next one is the next startup that the Prime Minister mentioned in his Man Ki Baat was the entrepreneurial spirit of JNK shines with the first batch of snow peas. Snow peas from Pulwama reaching London. Okay, okay, all people know about Pulwama is terrorism and how the terrorists were killed over there. And okay, but now there is something else that you should know about Pulwama, that is snow peas. Okay, Matar. Abdul Rashid Mirji and other farmers from Chakra village have collectively cultivated 100,000 acres, bringing Kashmir's exotic vegetables to the world stage. The success opens new doors for the region's prosperity. It does. But first, terrorism must be kept in check. Let's celebrate and support these remarkable stories of local empowerment with global recognition. Today, we can make one district, one product a global success. Yep, yep. I would say more than I would say that if you are, because uh, the world is never going to accept brands that we have. They will always have some or the other apprehensions that, oh, no, no, it's from this part of the world. It cannot be better than what we have. So, as long as we make, a handful of brands that are worthy enough for the nationals of Bharat to consume. I would say we have enough numbers in populations to run brands, because we can, have economies of scale just by selling it in the Asian continent. Okay, we don't need the validation of the West to make our brands go global, or make our brands economically sustainable, because we have enough numbers. All right, we have enough numbers in population to make them successful on an make them successful on an economic scale. So we don't need too many products, too many brands. We just need to promote them better in the Asian continent, so they are viable on a scale. They are viable on an economic scale. All right, let's not lose track. Let's get back. Next up is, there is something else that was mentioned. There is a park in the region of the Kannad town of Bengaluru, the Kubon Park. Okay, in this park, people have started a new tradition. Here, once a week, every Sunday, children, youth, and elders talk to each other in Sanskrit. Okay, I would say kudos to these people who are trying to bring up a language, the language of our ancestors, the Aryan ancestors that we have had. Uh, I would say these days, even, look at the irony, look at the cruel irony. I am speaking in the language of our colonizers, and I speak about decolonization all the time, but that is how it is. That is the fate that has befallen us. Okay. Now, the only way that we can reverse this trend is we can increase the penetration of Sanskrit. We can encourage people to develop interest in Sanskrit, because the only viable option that we have that could replace, even, even if even if you were to contemplate about a language that could replace English, the closest the closest option that we have is Sanskrit. Because if I say Hindi, it would be a bit a tad controversial when we consider the southern perspective. Okay, so Sanskrit has always been a bridge language between the states, but obviously not a lot of people speak that language these days, and it has taken a back seat, I would say. So yeah, these people in garden in Bengaluru, they have had this tradition that at least 1 week of the day they will speak in Sanskrit. Yep. And there is also this apprehension in the minds of people that make them reluctant to study these languages. It takes a lot of time to study this language. And there is also this argument that is put forward that even though if you spend a lot of time and much labor into studying this language, is it really worth it? I would say yes, it is really worth it, because the wisdom and the knowledge that was left behind by trials and tribulations of centuries. Okay, let's not operate under the assumption that all the knowledge that we have today at our disposal, be it any language, be it yoga, be it the science of astrology, be it arthashastra, be it all the shastras, all the manusmriti, everything. Okay, the knowledge that has been accumulated, all this knowledge was produced, okay, by trials and tribulations of centuries. It wasn't like that one Messiah came along and that Messiah spoke to God. God gave him all that knowledge, and he or she wrote it down. No. Okay, this knowledge has been accumulated by centuries of trial and error. So yes, such initiatives are very much important, on even on a uh, national level as well. Even the, I would say, Akashvani arm of the national broadcasting body that we have, they also have one or the other segment in Sanskrit. So more efforts, more resources, more expenditure is required to promote the use of this language. That is the closest that we have to a bridge language. Because if we talk about Hindi being the bridge language, the people in the southern states are not going to accept it. Okay, and it is the central theme of politics in the southern states, between a divide between the Hindi speaking people and the non Hindi people. So Sanskrit is the closest language. Let's see. Next up is yeah. Speaking of languages, Kuwait starts Hindi program on national radio. Okay, the Kuwait government has started a special program on its national radio, and that too in Hindi. It is broadcast every Sunday for half an hour on Kuwait radio. Now think about this. Okay, we read this in newspapers day in and day out. Okay, majority of the people who migrate to these Gulf countries come from the state of Kerala and nearby. So it's majority of the southerners who go to these Gulf countries, and one of those Gulf countries has started a program in Hindi. Okay, so let's see what comes out of it, because I'm in no way agreement, or we as a as an information body, that is esports and information, we do not subscribe to this idea of a lingual divide between the north and the northerners and the southerners. It is something that has been it is a self it is a manually engineered fault line that was that had been done to serve a specific political purpose. Okay, language has always been sacred. Even we do not subscribe to this idea of that there is somehow the northerners are different from southerners. But that's again a discussion for another video. Let's stick to the agenda for this video that we have. So Kuwait is starting a Hindi program on its national radio. So majority of the people living in these Gulf countries, they come from um, the states from the southern part of Bharat. So let's see, does this program succeed, or is it a success among the masses? Next up is my dear countrymen, today, the 30th of June, is a very important day. Our tribal brothers and sisters celebrate this day as Hool Divas. Okay, yes. Picking up from where we left, where we started off initially in this video, is there is this, set mindset among the people that it was only, some of the individuals such as Mohandas Gandhi and JL Nehru and all the others. It was only these people who are the sole contributors to the movement to throw out the Brits. Okay. If you disagree with them, somehow you are labeled as somebody who is, or in the language of social media, I would say you are cancelled. Okay. If you disagree with the principles of Mohandas Gandhi, if you disagree with the principles of uh, the entire the entire ideological forces behind Mohandas Gandhi, you are labeled as cancelled on social media. Okay, so first of all, this is like categorically incorrect. Okay, the revolts that came up in different parts of this very great land of ours cannot be attributed to a group of individuals. Okay, definitely there have been contributions from all the strata of the society that we live in. Okay, speaking about tribals, okay, there is a predominant tribal population in the areas of Jharkhand and Chhattisgarh. Okay, so yesterday, that is 30th of June, is known as Hool Divas. These tribal people, they picked up arms because they realized that early on that talking to them isn't going to cut it. Okay, there's a very famous saying from where I belong, is and all across India, all across the land of Bharat, I would say, is you know लातों के भूत बातों से नहीं मानते. Okay, so definitely Brits, they deserve to be kicked. And yeah, so Hool Divas, honoring the valor of Veer Sidhu and Kanhu. These are the two individuals who were the leaders of the revolt. Okay, the Hool Kranti. Okay, there is multiple literature that has been written in vernacular languages. So if you really want to study the history of this land, sticking to just one narrative wouldn't really cut it. There are multiple stories all across this land that that would really surprise you, that would really give you goosebumps, as in there were individuals who have done such heroic things. Okay, yeah. So this day is associated with patriots. Okay. uh, if you want to learn about the bravery and valor of the Santhal people, you should really look upon the just I would say I would urge you to go on Google and search it, because even Google wouldn't be able to hide the such, yeah, such ballads, such stories of bravery that Santhal people have demonstrated, and they have made their names immortal on the pages of history. Okay, so Veer, Sidhu, and Kanhu united thousands of Santhal compatriots and fought the British with all their might. This happened in 1855, long before 1857. That is usually considered as the initiation of the spirit of revolt against the occupying forces. Then in Santhal Pargana of Jharkhand, our tribal brothers and sisters took up arms against the foreign rulers. Okay, because this was the first front. Okay, when the Brits came here, they were here with the idea of exploitation. Okay, if you are still living under the assumption that no, the Brits came over here to impart the gift of democracy to us, to impart the gift of railways, to impart the gift of administration and all that, no. The sole purpose of Britishers coming over here and staying over here was exploitation. Period. Anybody who says otherwise has a different agenda. Okay. So they came over here with the idea of exploitation, and naturally, the first front which was going to get exploited were the forests. Okay. And since they were exploiting forests, they had to face the wrath of the tribal people who conventionally who have lived in forests. Okay, so they had to take up arms. They naturally realized that uh, yeah, they would not be convinced by negotiations, so they had to take up arms against them. And so if you want to learn more about these stories, I would say go on the internet. You'll find some or the other YouTuber or some of the other content creator that that are deliberately kept out of the mainstream, because there are forces out there that do not want you to know these stories. Because we all know what these stories would do. They would invoke a spirit of nationalism in you. Okay, and there are forces on the international level that do not want us to get in touch with our spirit of nationalism. Okay, so I would leave it to your better judgment. Let's not dwell on these things. Next up is United Nations to hold talks with Afghanistan's Taliban in Doha. I have covered this multiple times. Look at where we have come to. We are sitting down and negotiating with terrorists. Okay, so for United Nations, and for that matter, countries of the West, have no legal or no moral authority to speak. Okay, when you sit down and negotiate with terrorists, keep in mind this is the same body that had hijacked an Air India flight, you know to free one of their own from the national police. That is why I say, forget ancient history, forget medieval history, read contemporary history, history about 100 years before you were born, and you will find out you know where exactly is the world going, how exactly is the society functioning, what are the underlying goals or aims behind you know spreading misinformation. Because these international bodies such as Reuters, and even some of the local information bodies that we have, they are spending a lot of money to convince you to believe something. They are not mad, they are not fools. There is definitely a specific agenda behind why they want you to believe into something. Right. Next up is the Congress said, this is from a post uh, of the Hindu on social media platform X. They have put up this post. The Congress said Parliament should pass a law to enable reservations to exceed the 50% cap A day after NDA constituent Janata Dal United demanded that the quota increase in Bihar be included in the ninth schedule of the constitution. Okay, I really want people who let me just clarify in the very beginning, I am not advocating completely abolishing reservation, but when actually are we going to sit down and have an honest and a rational conversation about reservation? Okay, are we going to have this thing for like a considerable future, like 100 200 years of reservation, or are we actually going to sit down and think, okay, where exactly is the reservation needed? Okay, because in the upcoming era, all right, we are seeing how we are being treated in United States. Okay, our nationals, people studying over there, they are disappearing out of thin air, and then we find their bodies. All right, and there is not even so much so as an apology from the officials of United States. All right, so this brain drain that has been going on, even Canada and Australia for that matter, okay, that is going on because we are providing reservations over here. So again, I cannot stress this enough because you guys will interpret it in a different way. All I am saying is, when are we going to sit down and have a rational conversation about reservation? Okay, or are we just going to be afraid about talking about it, or we might hurt sensitivities of some of the sections of the society and not talk about it? Okay, the more you delay it, the more you refrain from talking about it, the more, people with vested interests are going to use to divide the society. All right, so once we have a rational conversation about reservation, we can actually determine where do we exactly need it. Okay, I would say yes, reservation is a very important tool, very efficient tool that we have. Okay, but we are not using it properly. All right, so yes, now there are certain states over here. Okay, there are certain states who are planning to increase the ceiling of 50%. Okay, so Supreme Court has mandated that there is a 50% ceiling that you can have on reservation, meaning you can only have reservation up until 50%. The rest 50% has to be left uh, for the other open categories. But there are states such as Tamil Nadu. Tamil Nadu has a ceiling of 69% when it comes to ceiling. And very recently, the Janata Dal United, led by Nitish Kumar, they have, um, you know, demanded that the quota increase in Bihar be included in the ninth schedule of the constitution. Okay, they also want to give reservation more than 50%. So, like I said, these are all, political means to garner political votes. So, unless and until we have an honest conversation about reservation, these things are going to be used as political tools. All right. Next up, let's see, what do we have? Yes, France. Voting begins in the first stage of two-round legislative elections. Now, earlier this month, we had covered this in one of our previous live streams that the French president, that is Emmanuel Macron, he has called up snap parliamentary elections. Okay, so to give you a brief background, very recently there were this European Parliament election. So the entire Europe, the continent of Europe, has like we have the union government and the state government. Okay, in our country, what they have is they have a European Parliament. Okay, each country sends its representatives to the European Parliament. So very recently there were elections held to the European Parliament, and in those elections, the you know there was a clear mandate that was given to the political parties that belong to the right end of the political spectrum. All right. Now this did not go down well with the parties from the left, parties from the center and from the left. Okay, so there is this political, you know there is this technique in the politics of the West that if you see that uh, you know the your opponent is gathering strength, your opponent is consolidating the lead, do not give them time. Okay, quickly call parliamentary snap elections before they consolidate their lead, and so hence you can continue in your position of power. Okay, so that is what Emmanuel Macron did when his party and his leaders, party leaders of his party, when they saw that the right is about to consolidate, they called a snap parliamentary elections. But guess what? Even they are leading in this uh, snap parliamentary elections that they have called. Okay, according to the Ministry of Interior, the turnout in the mainland France was more than 25%. Okay, elections for the 577 seats in the lower house National Assembly are a two-round process. Okay, France has 577 seats in the lower house National Assembly. We have 543 seats. This would be interesting to see. So there are media reports doing circles that the candidate from the right, Marie Le Pen, she is the one who is leading right now. And we have seen this increasing inclination of people, their political proclivities are now towards right, because we have been seeing this in Europe, the increasing problem of migrants not behaving properly, undermining the local culture, undermining the native culture, and still being stubborn and uptight about their own demands. Okay, so the sentiment of this anti-immigrant, anti-migrant sentiment has been increasing, and this sentiment has turned to support towards the right political parties. Why? Because traditionally these right political parties are somewhat uh, uh, they are somewhat infamous for adopting this hardliner stance towards migrants. Okay, if you look at the policies of Poland, if you look at the policies of many other countries, you'll see that they are uh, you know obviously they are migrant friendly. I'm not saying they are totally against migration, but they do not allow people who are going to undermine their own local culture. And we can see that Poland is somewhat more politically stable than the so-called developed countries of Europe, such as France, Germany. Yep. In fact, in Germany, there were street processions demanding overthrow of a government and establishment of Sharia. You don't have to take my word for it. Just look it up on the internet, and you will find it. So yes, the increasing sentiment of Europe is more towards the right, not even towards the center, more towards the right, because they are fed up with the migrants. So we'll know in the upcoming months what they want. Yes, again, Jharkhand celebrates Hool Divas to remember sacrifice of tribal leaders Sidhu Kanhu, Chand Bhairav, Phool Jano. Yep, the tribal brothers and sisters celebrate this day as Hool Divas. Yes, definitely you should read about them, browse about them, do your own research, find out. And uh, there is a moment, there is a thing that we started on our Instagram, that is rad. Okay, rad is a word that is usually given a negative connotation. People interpret it as radical. Okay, now I'm not asking you to be radical in your actions. Uh, you have to be radical when you research. You have to be radical when you are pursuing a thought. Okay, you have to be radical in your intelligence. Okay, so there is a movement that we started as esports and information, that is rad, we like to call it. That is research, analyze, and disseminate. Okay, be radical when you research these things, come up with a piece of information, analyze it properly, and share it with your friends. Okay, when you have stories to tell, talk about these things in your groups, talk about these things with your friends, and let the word spread. Because the history textbooks that we have has done no justice to to these efforts that were made. Next up that we have is all right, North Korea. North Korea criticizes joint military exercise by South Korea, Japan, and US. Okay, the North Korea is calling the military exercise that was undertaken by United States, South Korea, Japan, and United States. It was held in a water body that is very much close to North Korea, and they've called it Asian version of NATO. Could be. I mean, yeah. Some would argue that yes, it is an Asian version of NATO, and this time the common adversary that they have is North Korea and China. That is what I mean. That is what the people in the West, they are exploiting the disunity and distrust among the Asian members for themselves, I would say. So let's say, for example, if you are, you know, uh, if you're not in the camp, if you're not in the uh, camp that is of the United States, then then you're obviously supporting Russia or China, and that is what United States is not about to not letting it happen. So before even you can determine your strategy, United States will be offering you options. Next up is the Colombia. Colombia that was you know put on the minds of people through Narcos, through Pablo Escobar. So in Colombia, the armed group Segunda has agreed to a ceasefire. Okay, I really don't understand how these societies function, because if you see, there are countries in the West, okay, that have been overtaken by gangs. Okay, they have been overtaken by gangs. Haiti is one example. Colombia is another example. So how are you functioning as a society? Don't you have law enforcement agencies? How are you letting these people overtake government machines? So yes, the Colombian armed group on Sunday agreed to a unilateral ceasefire after several days of peace talks. Okay, okay. Even earlier, they had negotiated a peace talk, but uh, you know, they moved out of the peace agreement because they said that the other side did not stick to the demands. But now they have again, did done a unilateral ceasefire. Yep, it is what it is. Yeah, Israel tanks advance into areas in north and south of Gaza, give back the hostages, okay, and stop this thing. That is the quickest way that you can stop hostilities if you are so much concerned about civilians. And this goes for both the sides. All right, if you are to believe what is going on in on the international media houses, international media news circles and whatnot, everybody has right now realized that there's not going to be an end to this spiraling conflict unless you give back the hostages. That is what you know uh, that has been the demand from the Israeli side, at least I would say. So there is this headline on the Reuters website that says, Israel tanks advance into areas in the north and south Gaza. Okay, okay. So we have covered this in our multiple live streams previously, that there are these arguments that are made that okay, some of the people and living in the areas of Palestine, some of them might be supporting Hamas, but majority of them are innocent civilians. Okay, so let's analyze this argument for a moment. If majority of the people living in Palestine, if they are innocent civilians, okay, so earlier, you know uh, and you don't have to take my word for this, you can just simply browse on the internet. There were news reports about hostages being recovered from civilian areas. So uh, these militants, these militant functionaries of Hamas, they are hiding these hostages uh, in civilian homes. Okay, so if indeed there are innocent civilians, just simply just tell the armed forces, here are your civilians, take them, end the war. Okay, and it will be business as usual from tomorrow. At least that is what I think. Sitting thousands of kilometers away from the conflict land, but the ground realities can be different. Okay, so let's not get ahead of ourselves. Obviously, it's a very sensitive situation, and I would say there are people doing untiring work of negotiating peace between both the sides. But see, what I see is there is only one way, one sure short way to end this conflict, that is simply return the hostages, and it will be business as usual from tomorrow. All right, that's it for today. Now there are sometimes there are stories that come up late during the day after I have completed my live stream, so there might be stories that I might not be able to cover in these streams. So you can, yeah. Okay, now there is also one question that I am very frequently asked by many people, that there are already media houses on YouTube doing such things. Okay, so we like to provide a civilizational perspective to these stories, because that is what we feel is missing from international and national talking points. So the next time when you find yourself in a group of friends, when you find yourself with your group of colleagues and you don't have anything to talk about, you can simply just go on YouTube, open our YouTube channel, watch one of our videos, and indulge in discussions on what we say. And you'll find that those conversations are much more riveting, much more interesting and encouraging. All right, till then, take care. I will see you guys in the next video. Thank you for joining.